You know those flashy gestures DJs and producers pull during live shows? Well, here's something that might finally make them useful. Hey dudes, this is Bandesnaci for Controllerism.com, and today we're going to talk about the Source Audio Hot Hand USB MIDI controller, which is this little thing. So, what's this cute little thing for? It's basically a tiny motion sensor that you can strap onto anything and have the movement affect certain parameters in the software of your choice. Now, there are a number of tools out there that provide similar functionality of motion control, like the Leap or the Connect or even the DJ Tech Tools MIDI Fighter. So what sets this little fella apart? Let's take a closer look at what it does. Here are the two main parts of the hot hand, the ring or transmitter and the receiver. The transmitter comes with a nifty strap that you can use to attach it to whatever you want, in this case my finger. You can turn on the transmitter with a little button on the side and the receiver goes into a USB port. Once plugged in, it will start receiving usable data from the ring, which you can then immediately relate to your piece of software without any drivers, since the hot hand is class compliant. You can edit the ranges of movement and a bunch of other stuff related to the ring with the hot hand utility software, which you can see on my computer screen right now. The ring outputs its position data along three axes they call X, Y, and Z, although they're not traditional 3D X, Y, and Z axes. The first two axes are pretty straightforward. X is up, Y is side to side, while the Z axis is a weird kind of Y in reverse, or so Source Audio says. What I found is that you can better use Z to measure actual acceleration and inertia, or in other words, the force of your hand gestures. This comes in handy if you ever use the hot hand to toggle things on and off, but we'll talk about that in a bit. The utility software is pretty straightforward and easy to use. It shows what's receiving from all three axes in the upper left corner, and then you can fine-tune the ranges and behavior of that movement through the processes here in the middle. Choose an axis, choose a range through the depth knob, hold your hand in the position that's going to be the middle value of whatever parameter you're affecting, press the center button and you're all set. You can then further fine-tune the data being sent to the software in the third section, where you can choose minimum and maximum values, whether the MIDI messages are being sent as pitch bend, aftertouch, or control values, and, this is the most awesome thing of all, whether MIDI will be output continuously or as a toggle, which means that you can set it up to turn stuff on and off with basic gestures like a flick of your hand. However, what that means is that it can't map the motion of your full body to one single device like the Kinect. It can't do complex gestures like the Leap, and it doesn't have lots of buttons like the MIDI Fighter 3D. It's just a small sensor that most people will probably attach to their hands, and the range of motion that it does is, to be fair, pretty limited. However, this also means that it's got loads of advantages in other areas. One of the best things about it is that it's a transmitter with a range of over 100 feet, which means that I can just leave my desk full of controllers at any time and just move around and have it still affect the sounds and not be confined by a space, like a small area of air over the Leap motion, or the visual range of the Kinect, or the length of a MIDI cable between a controller and the computer. Now, I've been using it a lot in the last couple of months, and that includes the live event I did for the launch of my debut album last month. And one cool thing I managed to do before the show was to create a simple loop and leave it running while I was talking to members of the audience. And they would shake my hand and it would affect the sound. And then they'd ask about it, and then I'd do this. And I would be in the audience affecting the sound. And then everybody would ask me, what's that little black ring with a blue light attached to your finger? It's awesome, man. And this leads me to another cool thing about the hot hand. It is spectacular. When used in live performance, having people see an actual device attached to your hand that is affecting the sound with movement like that really does something to help them make a connection beyond simply waving your hands in the air. And finally, here's what I think is the single most awesome thing about the Source Audio hot hand. It is not meant to be interfaced with as a standalone device, as in nobody's ever going to use it by holding it in their hand and tilting it. It's meant to be attached to other stuff and be interfaced with through the movement of the object that it's attached to, the most obvious of which is a finger on a hand. But then that also means that you can attach it to loads of other objects other than your hand, like a guitar, or a flute, or a magic wah tube, or a microphone, or a harmonica, or a hammer, or Moldover's voice crusher. What this means is that the hot hand offers you the amazing freedom of adding a motion control element to almost anything. which I think should be the very definition of fun. Controlling sounds with a hammer! Anyway, from me and Controllerism.com, the hot hand definitely gets a full thumbs up. My name is Bandesnaci and I'm gonna sign off now, but here are a couple of clever uses for this little guy.